Hi there, and welcome to the Surviving and Thriving in Residency podcast. I'm Charley Lowry, your host and director of GME Relations at PracticeLink. This show is all about exploring the world of graduate and undergraduate medical education. We'll dive into the real-life experiences, successes, and challenges faced by medical students, residents, and fellows, while also highlighting valuable tools to support you, whether that's financial planning, student aid, or the many free resources provided by PracticeLink. If you're thinking about med school, currently studying, or deep into residency or fellowship, this podcast is here to offer insights and support to make your journey a bit easier than those before you. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Surviving and Thriving. I am your host, Charley Lowry, and I'm honored today to have with me student Dr. Margaret Giggey. She is a fourth-year student at the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine, and she earned her bachelor's from Salisbury University in Maryland. Welcome, Margaret, to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How's everything going? So you're a medical student, you're starting your fourth year, or have you already started? You're probably getting ready to start it.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to start. This is like my week of break because I just took my second exam, the COMLEX 2 exam. And then I'll be starting next week, and I think it's neurology.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. COMLEX is a total episode in itself, I think. There's so many things that we could talk about with the COMLEX exam. But let's start with telling me about what made you decide to go on this journey. What made you decide to become a doctor? And at what point in your life did you know you wanted to pursue medicine?
Yeah, so it's a little bit, I guess, different. Everybody has a different journey, but it was about 7th grade. I think I was 13 years old, I think that's correct. And I went into my advisory course and we sat down and we always listened to Channel 1 News. It's for kids, a kid's version. But I sat in the front of the class and it was just this video of, I think it was a neonatal intern. It could have also been a nurse, but I believe it was a neonatal intern. And she was just like standing over this tiny, tiny little baby, like just surrounded with wires and like a mask over her eyes. And it was just this tiny baby. And I had no idea that at that point in my life that neonatology existed. And I think I wrote healthcare in my journal. I was a little bit studious even at 13 years old. And from then on, it was just like, that was my journey. I wanted to do something in healthcare, more specifically with kids and the tiny, tiny little babies. So the premature babies.
So that's great. So that's 7th grade. That's perfect. What about deciding on a college for undergraduate? You went to Salisbury. How was that? And what made you decide to go there? Was that a local school for you? And how was the application process and all of that?
Yeah, so I'm from Maryland. Originally, I'll be honest, I had no idea where I wanted to end up for college. I didn't have like a dream school or anything like that. My dad, very big supporter of me, like my whole family, very big supporter for me. He took me on probably upwards of 15 different college visits, so we traveled around a little bit. We visited Salisbury University, the in-state school. We visited like University of Rochester in upstate New York. We did end up visiting like University of Pennsylvania, so a little bit of an Ivy League there. And then a bunch of just other places along the way, including places in Virginia, mostly East Coast, because I'm kind of familiar with that area and some of that geography. So he told me I had to choose at least 10 schools to apply to because we need options, we need safety schools, we need, high reach schools. And of course, University of Pennsylvania was a high reach school. My safety school was definitely Salisbury University. And then the one I thought I was going to end up at was the University of Rochester in upstate New York, because I was very interested in their Deaf Studies program, their American Sign Language program, stuff like that. But I did end up getting in there, and I did end up getting into Salisbury University. But then I had to think, I knew that I wanted to get into medical school. I knew it cost, a lot of money. So ultimately, I chose Salisbury University, not only just for like the lower cost because it is in-state school for me, but also I was accepted into the Honor Society, and it just kind of felt like a really good fit for me, as well as like the area. I'm not very big on huge cities, so I kind of just fell in love with Salisbury University. So that's kind of how I chose it. Let me know if you have any other questions about that.
So once you were there, did you know going in that you were going to pursue medical school afterwards? Did you know you wanted to be an MD or DO, or were you thinking just at that point you just wanted to be in the medical field of some sort?
Yeah, so at that point, I kind of just knew I wanted to be in the medical field in some way. My dad, again, big supporter of me. My parents aren't at all from a medical background. They actually went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and my dad was like a program engineer. Sometimes I don't even quite understand. And then my mom used to fly planes. She used to be a pilot before she had kids. But no one in my family was from a medical background. So he kind of helped me figure out my way a little bit, helped me research places, helped me figure out what even the process was. So yeah, I knew I wanted to do anything in the medical field. I started with my pre-medical program at Salisbury University. They help you keep you on track. They keep you in the classes you need, make sure you get the science, any math, any general eds out of the way, and kind of help you organize your entire 4 years of college. And I find that very helpful, especially if you know right off the bat, definitely go get some help, get some advice, and they will help you do that. So that's how I got into it. And MD versus DO, I didn't actually know there was a difference at first. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. If they know they want to go in the medical field, they don't realize that there is, different paths, including like PA school. That is also an option too, physician's assistant. And I knew I was going to do medical, but yeah, didn't know about osteopathic schools at all until I started doing a little bit more research into it.
Okay. So you finish up your undergrad and you decide you're going to medical school. I want to know about that process. How many schools did you apply to? How did you settle on the osteopathic route? And what made you decide with WVSOM, which is an incredible, great school?
I agree.
Yes.
So again, it was kind of like college. No idea, didn't have a dream school, didn't know where I really wanted to end up. I knew that it was very competitive and that I would have to apply to many different schools. So I started off with just kind of looking at geography. I knew East Coast is what I'm most familiar with. I did start to branch out a little bit and research some schools like in Montana and like, it might not have been Montana, but like in that general area. And then I kind of just chose ones that I thought spoke to me. And a lot of the time, for me, I liked the look of this school, if that makes any sense. I don't really like big giant cities, the hustle and the bustle and the noise and all of that. I kind of like a little bit more laid back, a little bit cozy, I guess you could say. So I kind of chose schools like that. And then MD versus DO, I did end up applying both. A lot more MD than I did DO. However, interview-wise, I only got interviews from the DO schools that I applied to. And I think I applied to a total of 4 DO schools, and then the rest were all MD, and that was probably, I don't remember exactly how many I applied to. It's probably around 15, 20. But yeah, so I got more interviews from DO schools, and then one interview from the University of Maryland, because I am from Maryland, and we went from there.
Oh, okay. And then I'm sure it was very exciting getting your letter from WVSOM. So you actually went there and toured the campus, interviewed, all of that. And I'm sure that's enough to make you fall in love with it. I always say Lewisburg, West Virginia is like a little village that they picked up somewhere in the Northeast and moved down into the edge of West Virginia. They're a beautiful, beautiful little town. And then I think the school is just so personable. It's small enough, but it's big enough. So that's my plug for WVSOM. And of course, it's a standalone medical school, which is a different thing in itself with having 800 students and not being tied to a huge university or huge hospital system makes a lot of difference, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I was very excited to get the acceptance letter from WVSOM. It was the only interview that I had in person. I actually politely asked if I could be in person because it kind of coincided with another interview, and they were very polite and they were like, yes, let's schedule it for next week so you can come in person. And I think that really helped. I was able to see the campus. I was able to be there, meet other future medical students. And it was very eye-opening, and I think I perform a little bit better when I'm in person than when it is in front of a camera. So, I mean, if I had to offer any advice, I would say try and go in person for interviews. It does make a difference and impacts both you, like yourself, when you're there visiting, and you get to see them and they get to see you.
I agree. I think that's a great piece of advice there. So tell me about your first year of medical school. So I think since COVID, things have changed a little bit in years 1 and 2, where it used to be you had your seat in classroom year 1 and you were there every day of the week. And year 2, I think you moved across the hall and you were in that same seat all year. But now I think since COVID, a lot of things are hybrid and a lot of learning on your own and watching videos and things like that. So tell me about year 1 and how that went for you and the highs and lows.
All right. Yeah, so year 1, I don't quite remember the whole COVID thing. It was very brief transition because we started wearing masks and then we stopped wearing masks a little bit into my first year. And I'm not entirely sure if WVSOM had the hybrid before COVID. I'm assuming it was a little bit less. So there's hybrid now. You can sit in person for classes or you can sit at home and watch that way or even watch it later. I am very much the in-person type of girl. I have to sit and actually be able to see someone, presenting in front of me. And it also helps with time management because you have the certain time you got to be there. So that really helped. And I had a group of friends that also went in person, so that kind of helped too. So in terms of highs and lows, I mean, the low is it's a big change. High, so in middle school and high school, I was pretty much all A's. And then in college, I had 1 B, and I used to be so stressed. I was the perfectionist, and it used to give me a lot of stress. In medical school, you kind of got to let that go just a little bit. I mean, it's definitely possible to get all A's, but it's incredibly hard. And I will tell you right now, I do not have all A's. I'm an A and B student, but I'm very proud. I had to let go of some of that perfectionism, just try and study as much as I can in the time period we were given. In terms of how I studied, I would say I did end up changing it. I used to, in college, I would print out the PowerPoints, I would write on the PowerPoints, and that's just not the easiest thing to do in medical school because these PowerPoints are hundreds of pages long. So I had to change it up a little bit, and I think maybe after the first block, which is Foundations of Science, I think is what it's called. I might be getting that a little bit wrong, but I had to change it right at the end of it, and I decided to use the objectives because we always get objectives at the beginning of every PowerPoint we ever get. And I used that kind of for my studying, so while they were presenting, I would type under the objectives kind of notes and just important things to remember. Once we got into the big content of diseases and we're learning about the diseases, the treatments, the causes, I created a Word document and the diseases or the condition is on one side and then information about what it is, the causes, the treatment, anything that's important I put in another box. So a little bit of rewriting notes still, but it kind of helped put it all in one place for me. And then it became a study guide for later on, like studying for big exams. I have a huge binder with all the disease lists of every single course. It's pretty big. And I think I have it sectioned as like, oh, GI is this section and cardiology is this section. And that just kind of helped, because if I ever needed to look back in my own notes, I could just find the disease and do it that way. So it was a little bit different than what I normally do, and a lot of typing and stuff like that, but that's just how I learn. I definitely still need to write everything down, or I definitely type everything now. It's so much quicker, but that's how I ended up doing it.
I think if you ever need a side hustle, you could probably publish and sell that. You could definitely market that book. I'm the same. I still like to take notes. I still like to rewrite notes. That's how I learn. So overall, learning how to study for medical school is a huge thing. It's not really something that's taught in undergrad or in high school or in your learning process that far, right? It's a totally different beast.
Agreed, for sure. I think I took like AP courses in high school, and they try and teach a little bit. I think they tried to teach like Cornell notes or something like that. But for the most part, yeah, we don't get as much guidance in how to study and what to study, for sure.
Physicians, only want to be contacted by recruiters who know your specific professional interests? Simply call and speak with a PracticeLink physician specialist, and we'll help you create your free profile and pair you with only the job opportunities that you're interested in. Visit PracticeLink.com to get started today.
So first year, you're good. I'm sure you met your set of friends that you can study with, that you can connect with. So second year, how is second year different from first year for you?
Yeah, so the second year was different from first year because I got through a whole year. I knew that I could do it, and that actually really helps. You kind of lock down your study method. I still kind of changed some things here and there, but it definitely felt a lot easier. 1 year was done. So the difference between first and second year, at least at WVSOM, is first year we have like anatomy, so we do have a cadaver lab. It is very well run, and one of my favorite parts of first year was learning the anatomy in that way. We're like very respectful. And then second year, we don't really have that as much. So for me, I did pretty well with anatomy, and that also helped grade-wise. So not having that for second year was a little bit harder, but some people would say the opposite. It's just all up to how you study and how you do it and what you're comfortable with. But second year is a little bit different. You do a lot more standardized patient work practice. Don't forget the OMM lab, so osteopathic manipulation. Don't forget those. And we do that both first year and second year. In second year, it gets a little bit harder, I would say, lab-wise, because you get a little bit more testing on the techniques and the positioning and making sure you can care for a patient, and you get a lot more checkouts just to make sure you're comfortable and can pass. As an osteopathic physician, that's very important that you're able to do those hands-on things and that you're able to pass that and able to do that later on in third and fourth year. I guess other things that were different in second year for me, I try to do a lot more volunteering. It's hard to get that in the schedule. However, weekends you can try and squeeze it in there, and that's kind of how I did it. I was involved in a church nursery, so a lot of the volunteer activities that I like to do involved working with children, because I do want to be a pediatrician. So yeah, the church nursery, I helped with an event in the winter, or like Thanksgiving time, winter time, where we had all these vendors set up for women and children who needed a little bit of extra help, and just like some free items. And then WVSOM we had like teddy bears, and we taught the children how to take care of the teddy bear with a little stethoscope, and they all enjoyed that. And then we also had like a food game. He had a bunch of different vegetables and some fruits, and we had little cards, and it said what the fruits and vegetables were, and they enjoyed that, trying to guess what everything was. So a lot more volunteering, and I really enjoy that, trying to get out in the community. So I think that was one of the things that was a little bit different.
I think that's great. And I think that's another aspect of a school like WVSOM being in such a small, close-knit community is that they are incorporated into the community, and the community is tied to the school. And they do a lot of outreach and a lot of community events. And I think that's an incredible thing. It speaks volumes for Southern West Virginia to have that school there. So tell me about third year. So for WVSOM, it's a little different. I don't know how many medical schools do this, but you guys go through what's called site selection. So you're placed at a statewide campus somewhere throughout the state. I think there's 7 statewide campus locations maybe. And so you went through site selection, ended up in Wheeling, West Virginia. So tell me about that third year and about your very first rotation and stepping into the hospital or clinic and how that was.
All right. So site selection, we rank our top places, and we have to rank everything. And then it kind of gets put in some kind of algorithm that kind of just tries to match you into your top if possible. And that's not always possible. It's definitely kind of up in the air. I got lucky. Wheeling was my top choice. There was 8 spots, I believe, at the time. And we also, as a school, as a class, we had like a list where we would, as students, like put in what we were going to rank it as, and that kind of helped other people get a sense of like, oh, maybe I should still keep this as my top. Maybe this isn't something I want to keep as a top choice anymore, because there's a lot of people going for it, because it's kind of a numbers game. But yeah, I got into Wheeling. I moved to Wheeling in June. And we started our rotation in July after orientation. So orientation's about 2 weeks long. We kind of get the whole rundown, sign the HIPAA trainings and all of that. And then the first rotation starts. So I'm not sure if it's all of our sites or Wheeling specifically. We try and do family medicine rotation first. That kind of gives you a family medicine, you see a lot of things. You see everything. You see adults, you see pediatrics, and a very wide variety of diseases and conditions and all of that. Also, osteopathic schools are very family practice friendly, pediatric friendly, anything primary care related, I guess you could say. So family medicine is like very important for us to learn and be comfortable with, because I think there's a lot of us that end up going into those primary care spots after we go through medical school. So yeah, my first rotation, it was 8 weeks long. So 8 weeks in one place, which I didn't mind because you didn't have to move halfway through, because they normally either split it up in 4-week rotations or 8-week rotation. And it also depends on what specialty. So walking in was definitely a little bit nerve-wracking. You don't really fully know what to expect, because every preceptor is going to be different. Every physician's different. How they run their practice is different, or if it's not just their practice, how the specialty itself or how the organization itself runs the practice as well. I really enjoyed my first preceptor. I'm very glad. She's a little bit younger, so I think she kind of understood. She's probably at least 10 years out of residency, I think, so that was kind of nice to see. And she was just great. I followed her around a lot first just to get a sense of how everything worked. Of course, we do stuff with standardized patients. We know how to take a history, we know how to do a physical exam, a very basic physical exam, and start to get a differential diagnosis and thinking about treatment. So I followed her around for a little while. She told me, okay, go ahead and go get a history, go do a physical, and that's like, oh, you're finally in the real world, I would say, and you're still a baby doctor, I'd say, because, we're medical students, but she was just like, go ahead. So that was really interesting, talking to patients, like real patients, not standardized patients.
And now, were you the only medical student on the rotation?
So for that rotation, I think there was one other student. She was with a different preceptor, though, in the same building. So for me, I was with one preceptor, and I was like the only one with her, if that makes sense. So my first rotation was in a clinic, I guess I should say. It wasn't in a hospital, and there weren't any residents in this family practice. But my base site, we do primarily go to Wheeling Hospital for most of our rotation, and then anything else in the area. So I was actually in a clinic in, I think it was near St. Clairsville, Ohio. So just a little bit of travel, but yeah, small clinic.
Nice. So that sounds like a good experience. What about OMM? Did she practice OMM?
Yeah, so she practiced OMM. She doesn't use it daily, but if there is a case that requires it, mostly MSK or musculoskeletal complaints, she is very comfortable doing that. Every Friday, she went to Wheeling Hospital and actually taught the residents there, any of the DO residents there, a little bit more about OMM. They practiced techniques, they would do stuff on each other, and that's how we learned. We would learn the structural exam on each other, we would do the treatments on each other. And yes, so the short answer is yes, she did.
Gotcha. Good. So what about the end of rotation exam? Did you have one at the 4-week mark, or did you have to wait until the whole 8-week rotation of family medicine was over to take your exam?
Yeah, so after every rotation, we had an exam. It's called a COMAT exam. I have no idea what that stands for, because we all love acronyms apparently in medicine. But yes, it was 8 weeks for me, because family medicine is an 8-week rotation. Internal medicine is also considered an 8-week rotation. There's like an outpatient and an inpatient for internal medicine. And then some of the stuff like pediatrics, surgery, those are all 4 weeks rotation. But after either 4 weeks or 8 weeks, family medicine's 8 weeks, I would take the exam. And they weren't easy exams, but...
It's very nerve-wracking, right?
Yes.
And then third year, what were your standout moments? What was your favorite rotation, first of all?
Pediatrics? So pediatrics, yep. Yep, okay. Pediatrics. Okay.
I had a guess. Did you take a lot of vitamin C? Did you get sick on your pediatrics rotation? I think that's very common.
Yes, I got sick. Some kind of head cold, who knows? I mean, I knew it wasn't anything serious, so I didn't actually go to the doctors for that. Maybe I should have, but it was a head cold. At least it wasn't like a stomach bug. I'm kind of glad about that, so.
Right.
Yes, I got sick on my peds rotation.
Yeah, so peds was your favorite. What about your electives? What did you do for electives in your third year?
Yeah, so I did a neonatology elective, because that's what I think I'll end up doing. I'm still kind of tug of war in my own head, because I love pediatrics, and you have to go through pediatrics before NICU, because that is considered like a subspecialty, and you would do a fellowship for that. But I also really, really miss being able to talk to my patients, and you can't really do that with premature babies, and I like them to talk back. And I know parents are always going to be like, oh, once they start talking, they never stop, but I don't mind that. So NICU rotation, I did it in Charleston at
probably the Women's and Children's Center.
Yes, it was the Women's and Children's Center. I loved it. It was a 2-week rotation, and then, like walking in to the NICU was kind of like that aha moment, or like that moment of realization that I am in the right place. Because that's kind of what pulled me into medicine to begin with, was a video of a neonatal intern. So I really loved that rotation.
I think I read something of yours about that you were talking about you love talking with children and letting the children speak for themselves. And I thought that was really interesting, the way you put it, something about just the way that it gives that child a chance to kind of come out of their shell, I guess, and be able to communicate. And they learn early if you talk directly to the child instead of the parents always being involved in talking for them.
Yes, I'm really big on that. A lot of people don't like pediatrics because you're mostly dealing with parents. And yes, that can be true, but you're also dealing with this little kid in front of you. They're learning how to speak, they're learning how to walk, talk, do everything. And I think it's very important to be a part of that journey, I would say. And part of that is trying to communicate with them, build their communication skills, and it's fun to talk to kids. You never know what they're gonna say, and you never know what they might learn from any experience or interaction. And I kind of hope to at least make them smile. I know sometimes in the doctor's office they don't really want to be there and they're screaming and crying, but to get a smile out of a child, that's kind of something special. And I think that's also why pediatrics. But yeah, it's really important for them to start to be able to communicate and tell you what is wrong, learn about what's going on with them and their bodies. And they're not always going to be with their parents. So I think it's very important to try and get them to come out of their shell.
Give them a little independence and let them learn how to interact. And yeah, I think that's great. I think that is really great. So now you are starting your 4th year, and I'm sure your schedule is already built for the year. So you'll be doing audition rotations very soon. I'm sure that's scary too, right? That's another step, another one of those little scary bumps in the road. So tell me about that. How many auditions do you think you'll do, and how do you feel about that? What's your anxiety level like?
Definitely nerve-wracking. It's a theme with me. I never know where I want to end up. East Coast for sure. I do have some audition rotations scheduled, so I'll be doing one at the Medical College of Georgia. It's in Augusta. I have some family there about 2 hours away, and it would be a good place for a residency to have my residency at. And yeah, a little bit nervous. It's an audition rotation, so you kind of have to be on your best behavior, which is not that hard. It's really not that hard, but you gotta, I guess, show off your skills a little bit, show what you've learned, and learn even more, because there's so much that we still have no idea what to do about or how to deal with. So in total, I think I have 3 that kind of count as an audition rotation because I'm traveling for them. So I'll also have one in Charleston again. It is also a NICU rotation, and that's a 2-week one. So normally they're about 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It just kind of depends on the school. And then the other one I'm doing in Florida, because my family pretty much all live there. Live there now. They moved when I moved to medical school. So yeah, one in Florida as well. And I think that's a pediatric cardiology rotation. That's going to be really fun, I think. Kind of get a good sense of different specialties, subspecialties.
That's good. So you have 4 weeks of family med coming up in 4th year as well, right? And some internal med and some of those rotations as well, required rotations, I'm sure.
So we have core rotations that are required, like you mentioned. So that's the internal medicine, the family medicine, pediatrics, surgery. I think we have 2 surgeries, 2 internal medicines. So a little bit more than in 1st year. However, we get like 8 weeks of vacation because it kind of gets spread all around the rotations, because not all the schools that you may do an audition rotation at or just a regular rotation, not all the schools are all on the same schedule. So there's going to be a lot of breaks. I'm also in the process of applying through ERAS for residencies as well. So it's a little bit of everything. And then we have 12 weeks of electives as well. And that kind of just whatever you want to do. Pediatrics can be a little bit hard to find in the West Virginia area because we need inpatient peds this year as opposed to an outpatient like a pediatrician's office. And that's just because West Virginia doesn't have a lot of big hospitals with big pediatric inpatient, all of that. So we do a little bit more traveling for the pediatrics rotations outside of the state, or if you're lucky, you might be able to get some in Morgantown, but that's pretty hard to get because it's a very popular place.
Right. Well, it's good if your parents are in Florida. That's good too. That maybe that can be a backup to do a rotation or two in Florida and get to see family. That's a bonus. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so that's definitely why I'm doing it. I get to live with them for a month, which is a good thing for sure, because otherwise you'd have to find a place to live and pay for it for that month on top of paying for rent where you're living right now. So that's an extra expense that I didn't really know was coming, but I always take things one step at a time and try not to think about it all at once. But a little bit more expensive in the fourth year, so.
So now, did your parents move back to Daytona Beach, or did they move around where they went to school at Embry-Riddle?
They are in Oviedo, Florida. It's kind of near Orlando, because my siblings, I'm the oldest, but my siblings also went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, so they're all kind of in that area.
Okay. It's a great school. That's an incredible school, yeah, for sure.
I visited, but for sure wasn't what my path was going to be.
So tell me about South Africa. You've been to South Africa. How did you end up going there? And tell me a little bit about what impacted you while you were there.
In college, we had study abroad. It was a short-term study abroad for about 2 weeks over the winter semester. I was also an athlete in college, so we had swimming. I had to miss swimming, but I really wanted to go. At the time, I think it was mostly for juniors. Technically, I was a sophomore, but had the credits of a junior. So they told me, oh, you can't go because you're considered a sophomore. And I'm like, well, technically, I have the credits to be a junior. So I ended up being able to go. And I'm really glad I did. So it was a global health class, I guess you could say, and we traveled to South Africa and we stayed in, I think they called them homesteads. I might be wrong about the terminology, but we stayed with a local family. We were all like spread out. There's maybe 15 of us or 20 of us, and we all spread out in all of these different places that was kind of affiliated with the school and with the program we were doing it through. And we had some fun vacation stuff, of course. And then we also had more medical stuff. So it was global health, so we went to different clinics. We went to the for-profit clinics. We went to a nursery. We went to the nonprofit clinics. And they're very different experience with healthcare than it is here. And a little bit of history. I'm not very big into history, but apartheid and all of that, just the socioeconomics, it's still very much split into that. And it's the for-profit clinics, there's like nobody in them. We went to visit, and there's not a lot of people who can afford that kind of care. And then we go to the nonprofit clinics, and there's just a ton of people. Like the waiting room is fully packed. Everybody is sitting in chairs along the hallway and trying to be seen. And that's a stark difference from here.
I know it's not possible, but it would be great if every medical student could do one international rotation, especially if it could be in a third world country, something like that. I think that to gain the appreciation of everything that is at our fingertips at every moment of the day, you have to see that from a different perspective, right? And I think it makes you so appreciative of what we have and what we're able to do here. And just being able to see the simplest things that can't be accomplished in healthcare in other places.
Physicians, have you finished training and now you're job hunting? PracticeLink.com's Resource Center is packed with free tools to help. From creating your CV, interview prep, and even tips to ace that site visit, we've got you all covered. Visit PracticeLink.com's Resource Center today, and while you're there, create your free account to connect with employers and view exclusive job opportunities.
Any plans for an international rotation? I guess not in fourth year, but maybe in residency you could go international on some trips. Seems like there's a lot of trips always going on.
We have something called DO Care, and it's like a club at WVSOM, and they do international trips. I had wanted to go on one of those, but at the time I was feeling a little bit stressed out. There's a lot going on. I didn't know how I could study and bring my materials with me at the same time. And I kind of regret that. I kind of wish I had the courage to go on that. And at that point, it was like first or second year you could go, but you're actually starting to talk to patients and trying to help them and diagnose them. And at that point, I personally did not feel ready. First and second year, we were still learning everything, and I guess I was a little bit scared for that. And I do regret not going on one of those trips. So I think in residency, I will probably do something, travel somewhere and get one of those other experiences, because I really did enjoy South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa, and I would for sure in residency.
Everything in its own time. You're doing the right thing. I think you'll get to go when it's the right time again. I want to talk to you a little bit about, of course, our listeners don't know this yet, but it has been announced now, and we have just given away 6 scholarships, which we call the PracticeLink First Practice Fund. And student doctor Margaret Giggey is the recipient of the First Practice Fund for a medical student. So first of all, congratulations on that. It was a great pleasure to read your essay answers. We thought you did just a great job. So it has to feel good to have won that and to have a little bit of money going into your 4th year and knowing travel's coming up for some audition rotations. Good timing on that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. So I thought maybe, if you would, that maybe you might read some from your essay question on your career goals and how the First Practice Fund is going to help you achieve those.
Would you like me to read the whole thing or just kind of choose a few things?
You can choose what stands out to you. I think that there were so many things that stood out to me throughout your essay question. So whatever you would like to share will be great.
I'll start with the beginning, and then I will go from there. So this is on career goals and how the First Practice Fund will help me achieve them. So when I was 5, I outsmarted a hearing test. I mimicked the other kids, raising my hand whenever I saw the administrator press the red button. But I only heard the beeps half the time. A year later, I officially failed the test and left the audiologist with 2 ear-shaped molds and a new identity, a child with hearing loss. I grew up learning to explain my hearing loss in simple terms, telling others I had 80% of the hearing that they did. But as I got older, I began seeking more than just understanding. I wanted connection. So in high school, I learned about audiograms and inner ear hair cells. In college, I attended a genetic hearing loss conference and completed an honors thesis analyzing the size of a gene deletion causing deafness. And still, science alone couldn't quite explain what it meant to live in the space between deaf and hearing worlds. So as a hard of hearing individual, I'm considered both disabled and not deaf enough. I live at the intersection of 2 communities, and I've come to see myself as a bridge between them. I pursued a deaf studies minor to learn American Sign Language and better understand deaf culture, and these experiences kind of shaped my career goal. And that's to become a pediatrician who advocates for the deaf and hard of hearing children and for their families. So something that people may not know, 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents, and they often lack cultural awareness and access to a visual language. And I kind of want to change that. I aim to catch hearing loss early, promote American Sign Language accessibility, and connect families with deaf mentors, because I think that is very, very important. Through seminars on deaf patient-centered care and my work at the Deaf Independent Living Association, I've prepared myself to help parents make more informed, inclusive choices. And at WVSOM, I was also able to bring Corey Axelrod, a deaf leader, to speak on cultural awareness, because I also believe that my fellow medical students and even the staff could learn a little bit more and hopefully take what they've learned and implement it in their practice as well. So these initiatives have shown that I don't really need to wait to become a physician. I can also make a difference, and I can advocate for and educate right now as well. So ultimately, whether I'm in outpatient pediatrics or neonatology, I will continue working to improve care for the deaf community, and the First Practice Fund will allow me to do that.
I love it. I love it. I'm just very happy for you. Very excited to see what you do. And I'm really looking forward to having you back on the podcast. I would love to talk to you after you start residency. I think would be a great time. Something we love to talk about on the podcast is year one residency, taking care of your mind, body, and spirit, making sure that it's a lot. Not to scare you, but it is a lot. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of time. It's very easy to run in the cafeteria and grab something unhealthy to eat. And it's very easy to come home and go to bed and forget about yourself. And so we always talk about that and the things that you can do to fuel yourself, how to incorporate yourself into the community, things like that. So I would love to have you back, and I think you'll be just fine. I don't have any worries about you, but you can always provide some guidance and some hints and tips for medical students coming up behind you. So I would love to invite you back. Anytime you want, you can come back on the podcast. We can always talk about things like letters of reference. I know you're going to be getting some of those soon, and CV tips and anything at all like that. So keep that in mind as we go forward, and best of luck to you. Congratulations again. It was a pleasure to talk to you today. And a little bit about PracticeLink. You will definitely be seeing us in your future. We are a free service to physicians. And my role within PracticeLink as GME director is I do a lot of outreach to GME programs. I visit and talk to residents about finding their ideal first practice and what all is involved in that. We talk a little bit about everything from creating the perfect CV and getting the perfect references all the way up to negotiating a contract and what all you need to consider when deciding to move. So a lot of things. We do talk about a lot of things. So hopefully you'll see me in residency, but PracticeLink is always here if you need us.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for being on. Good luck with everything. I hope fourth year goes well. Hope audition rotations go well for you. And keep us posted on where you are.
All right. I will.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.